If you're in Seattle, and you need to buy or sell a home, we'll be right there for you. Because we're the realtors that you can trust. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey, you guys, what's going on? And welcome to another special edition of the Ron and Don Show. We are live in the TeamLisa.com studios.
With a Y.
That's with a Y. Anytime for all your mortgage needs, it's Team Lisa.
With a Y.
TeamLisa.com. And Ron right now, I guess, is in Las Vegas. And he's gambling his life away. And so we have a very special guest. Put your hands together. Josh Kearns is here. And if you don't know who Josh is, Josh, tell everybody, we have a very special connection because we did a lot of cause radio at Cairo Radio. And a lot of times the things that Ron and I got involved with, whether it was Operation Airlift Japan or helping a little girl get a service dog, many times it was a story that you found out about. You would come and tell us, and then we would jump in to start doing the cause radio, and we would get the Ron and Don Nation involved and the radio station involved. And then the cool thing was you would come back around as our reporter that was attached to the show, and you would cover the story. So we're going to talk about some of those stories here in a moment, but kind of give people your background. And then also, I know when people hear your voice or they see you, everybody go to YouTube, check out, unless Ron and I broke the camera last week. I don't think we have. But you can go to Spotify, you can go to YouTube, and of course, we're on the podcast player of your choice, so you can watch, you can listen. But give everybody kind of your background, your time at Cairo, and kind of what you've been doing since. So thanks for being here today.
Oh, God, what an honor. I mean, you and I have spent a lot of time together, obviously, over the years. I came to Seattle in 95. I'd been a reporter on Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., when there was still civility. And my wife got a job with Starbucks, and we got transferred out here. I started at Como Radio and then went to TV and then did a bunch of stuff. Ended up, went into PR for a while, marketing for Microsoft and Amazon and Victoria's Secret, which is a story I may not have ever told you. That's a true story.
I didn't know that.
On the tech side. Remember when they did their first runway show and it blew up the internet? This is like early 2000s. So they hired our team to go in and basically do all the PR around, we're going to fix the internet and all of that. So I'm in the offices. You'll love this story. And then I promise I'll answer your question.
It's a podcast.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, we got all the time in the
I
world.
won't drop all the F-bombs, though, because
Matt has to be, Matt off the mic has to be home by midnight.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
So, we're working for Victoria's Secret, team of us from Wagner Edstrom PR firm here in Bellevue. And they're like, who wants to be on this Victoria's Secret account for the fashion web show? So we get sent to New York there, and you're in the office, and I'm working with the CEO and all these on the business side. We're going to the NASDAQ and CNN Business and all of that, where you're literally in the coffee room, like at Cairo, where you'd be in there and people would come in and talk, and literally you're there, and here's Heidi Klum, like in her bra. Hey, how about those Giants?
I'm used to seeing Tony Miner not in his bra.
Dory Monson. And Mike Salt. No, so what's funny?
Yeah.
True story. So you're in there and you're pretending like you're not looking, right? And you're doing this, my eyes getting sore from... Yeah. Anyway, that's my Victoria's Secret story. Somewhere I have a picture of me and Heidi Klum.
Was that pre-wing or post-wing? Because at some point they put the wings on, and that's when it really blew up, when they started doing the Angel series,
well,
right?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I do not remember the wings. I was too busy trying not to look at Heidi Klum in her underwear in the coffee room.
Got it. Yeah.
But anyway, eventually my wife was traveling all over the world. We had a young daughter. So I decided I'm going to go back into the news because it's more stable. I didn't say I was smart. But I did that for 10 years, and that's where I met you and Ron and everybody else. And I spent 10 years at Cairo Radio, and we launched a lot of great programming. I got involved with the Charity of the Month program, the Seahawks, the Mariners. And in 2017, I got the box. Yeah. And for those who don't know, the box is, hey, great show. Here's the box. Pack up your crap. bye-bye.
You either get a cake or a box. And we got a box, you got a box, Heather Bosch got a box. Usually the managers give each other the cake, but we got the box.
Yeah. So anyway, and I hung out my own shingle, PR, marketing, events, podcasting through the pandemic. I did stuff for you and Ron, and that led to where I'm at now. Basically, fast forward, I am now a pickleball entrepreneur and impresario, and we will talk about that later. But I am all in on the pickleball thing. It changed my life, transformed me, and I know at some point we'll talk a little more about pickleball.
Yeah. That's story number 2 coming up in tonight's Top 5 at 5. So, in fact, let's get to it. Let's get to tonight's Top 5 at 5 with Josh Kearns.
Ron and Don's Top 5 at 5.
5, 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Howard Schultz. And I know you have a connection to this story because your wife worked at Starbucks. Recently, we heard that Starbucks was kind of moving to Nashville, but they were still kind of staying here. And then when we saw the millionaire tax was launched, Howard Schultz, within moments of the announcement of a millionaire tax in Washington State, said, I'm out of here. I'm heading to Florida, right? And also, let's not forget that it was Howard Schultz that decided, I'm not getting along with Gary Payton and the Rain Man. I'm going to sell this Seattle Supersonics team. But Clay Bennett has promised me that he will not take this team to Oklahoma City. They're going to stay right here in Seattle, Washington. I don't know if you remember, but we were able to get him on the phone. It was one of the first interviews that Ron and I did with him, and it was mostly me talking with him. And I almost got fired from Cairo that day because they thought I was very disrespectful. I had found out that a backdoor deal had been done, that Clay Bennett was going to pretend to shop the team and look for a stadium, and then he was taking them to Oklahoma City. But first he would do the dog and pony show. And I asked Howard Schultz about that, and I said, isn't it true that you did, and we chatted for about 10 minutes. I said, isn't it true you did a backdoor deal? And then they hung up the phone. Ursula, who was a news director at the time, came by with a piece of paper and hung it up and was telling me to be nice to Howard Schultz. It's the first and the last time that any news director has ever done that. And I felt, I think I wasn't mad at her. I think she was looking out for me because she knew Ron and I came from rock radio and had a little edge to it. But that's ultimately what ended up changing Cairo Radio. It's like, hey, we're not going to take these dumb phone calls, Bob and Bellevue and Cindy and Sammamish, and have them argue with each other and do kind of an old school CNN, Tucker Carlson crossfire.
Yeah.
We're going to do a rock and roll radio show. We're going to get women involved in this. Someone like Rachel Bell or Libby Dankman or Kim Shepard's going to come in here and tell us what she thinks. And it kind of started driving the folks at Cairo crazy. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's talk about Starbucks because there's a story in the news. What is the story? And Howard is talking about one of the reasons why he left. And you feel like, I don't know, maybe the message is important, but maybe it's the wrong messenger, right?
Well,
what is the message and what is the story?
So take a step back. Howard Schultz has not lived here for all intents and purposes for a number of years. So I think that's an important thing. His only connection to Starbucks since he stepped down the second time or third time, and they brought in a horrible CEO, Laxman, who worked there for maybe a year, came from the UK, no experience in that industry, kept driving him to the ground. Howard Schultz is merely a majority stakeholder or shareholder in the company. He is not altruistic. We have seen that. He ran for president despite everybody tell him not to. He sold to Sonic. So I would say throw any altruism out. However, from a business standpoint, if you look at Starbucks, what is their number one business objective? This is not a community-centered reason. Yes, they do good, and I could point to nonstop all of the great things they've done. And Howard Schultz created a ton of wealth for people. He was the first to provide stock options for people, low-level employees, benefits for same-sex partners back in the 90s. He built a great company, and he did have an affinity for here. But if you fast forward now, Brian Nickel, the CEO, came from Chipotle, Taco Bell. This is a company whose stock has been in the, I'd love to say SHI blank blank ER.
We say shiznit around here.
Well, in the shizner.
There you go. I love it.
So as a result, and who are you beholden to as a publicly traded company? Your shareholders. Their revenues are down across the globe. So they had to turn the whole company around. That's what Brian Nichols is doing. He's a turnaround master. And that means, first and foremost, looking at your revenues and your expenses. Revenues are down, you cut expenses. The city of Seattle is one of the most expensive municipalities in one of the most expensive states to do business in the country. So Howard Schultz's arguments on if you just take him out of the equation, very much have been borne out time and time
What are his arguments?
Well, first and foremost is the complete, I use the term antipathy, the actual hatred, resentment of the business community. But we've seen that, Don, for decades here. There's a reason Amazon is building everything, moved all these jobs and all the development over to Bellevue and Washington, D.C. and other places around the country, because the city of Seattle not only is so expensive, but the city leaders are truly, I mean, they have an overt hatred, disdain for the largest businesses, while at the same time trying to extract as much revenue as possible.
Is that why Boeing did the same thing, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Washington State, I mean, if you look back when Boeing moved to Chicago, it was strictly, well, it was financial, and then it was also the business interests in this state, the unions, the legislature, and they felt by distancing themselves, and they found the hard way. They moved to Washington, D.C. briefly, and people won't know, but I was the aerospace reporter at Como TV and covered that a lot. But it is all economics. I mean, you can go all the way back and people are going to say, oh my God, what are you, socialists? We do not have an income tax. Therefore, our taxes elsewhere, why do you think we have an over 10% gas tax, our sales tax? Because we have to cover those revenues. And then, of course, the legislature and the city council will always spend more than they take in. But the bottom line, Don, is not only is it expensive to do business, and any of these businesses, I don't care who you are, look at AI and Amazon and Microsoft. They are investing literally billions, trillions of dollars, and that's going to affect Starbucks is a technology company now. They don't have a loyalty to Seattle. And so they are looking for the best deal. The city of Nashville in this case, and you can go look at why did Boeing move to Charleston, South Carolina? Because no union, cheaper, and tax incentives. Yeah. Well, that's why we don't have a film industry in Washington State, because Vancouver said, look, Don, you come and spend, we will give you $5 million if you'll spend $20 million. Great. We say, you give us $50 million and you don't get to, you don't get anything back. So that, to me, Howard Schultz is definitely expressing what is common knowledge and is the belief in the business community. And it's only going to continue to get worse if things don't get done.
Why is he the wrong messenger?
Well, locally, he's the wrong messenger. He is the wrong messenger first and foremost because of the Sonics legacy. First and foremost,
is that real? Because
100%.
I work for I'm close to it.
Yeah.
Because when I first got in radio in '95, we worked at KJR. We were the Sonic station. They were on their run in '95 to '97. The Mariners are on the run. Even though neither of them won a championship, is a very exciting time because we got to see Jordan. And we got to see the mailman
Very
deliver.
much so.
And we got to see Charles Barkley back in the day, right? We got to see these phenomenal NBA teams that played basketball like football, which I loved and I know you love too. But I'm too close to it, and sometimes I feel like, well, so many people have moved here now. Do people even really care about the Sonics anymore, do you think? Do you think it's embedded in the city in the same way that the Seahawks and the Mariners are?
Yes, and there is a legend, if you will, to Howard Schultz, a legacy that is perpetuated. People still to this day talk about Howard Schultz sold the Sonics. That is a narrative that has not gone away. Danny O'Neill, remember our colleague who was a great sports writer at the Times before he came over to us in radio? This week, he's writing repeatedly, yo, dude, you might want to sit this one out. And so it perpetuates. What's interesting, Don, I was reading this weekend, I don't know if you know, the sales of Sonics gear is still one of the top sellers in the NBA store's vintage collection.
Is that right?
They haven't existed here for, 25 years? Yeah. So, yes, it is a thing. Plus, he's a liar. And this guy was it's one thing to say, well, we are having deep talks, but he was proven to be a liar. You proved him to be a liar. I think that undercuts anything. And then, the disingenuity of Well, he moved to New York. He did $1 billion apartment in New York. So he doesn't have street cred that another maybe a less toxic business leader would have if they had argued the same thing.
You see, and we talked about Katie last week, our mayor here. And I'm rooting for who's ever mayor.
Sure.
And I certainly didn't vote for her, but she's our mayor now.
Sure.
So I need to root for her. And we know Chris Daniels had an opportunity to interview her about some of the violence in the city, about having cameras. And we've all heard the tape now. It's gone national where she didn't want to give comments about that. And we're going to bring it back to Howard here in a moment.
Sure.
Ron said last week, you know what? When you're a young mayor and they're asking you questions and you don't know the answer, instead of making it up and you took a timeout, they caught you on camera taking the timeout. He said I'd give her credit for taking a timeout, which I haven't heard anyone else say. Everyone's beat her brains in. As a reporter and what Chris was doing, because if you go back and you don't listen to the cut-up tape, there are really long pauses, which we know in broadcasting, you and I do, especially on the internet now. It's gold, man. We love because it gets so uncomfortable, right? And as someone interviewing someone, I love to create long pauses and make someone uncomfortable. I did it in my interview with Howard Schultz, which somehow disappeared at Cairo, and I don't know why. Your take on the way that she handled that and the way her handler handled that, and if you were in Chris Daniels' shoes as well, double-barrel question, do you think Chris was being fair to her?
I think first and foremost, I always, when I did media training, I worked with Bill Gates. I worked with a number of those throughout my tenure there. The discipline, there is a discipline to opening your mouth when you are a public figure, a business leader, a government leader. Only say what you want to say. When Bill Gates was the best at...
Was he?
Bill, tell me about Windows Vista and why it has so many problems and it's 18 months behind. Well, Microsoft is very committed to community service and blah, blah. You could have asked him, what's your daughter's name? And he would say the same thing. Yeah. I think neophyte public speakers, and Katie Wilson has zero experience. She had no training. I guarantee you she's not getting media training or discipline. I think any time that she cannot say anything is better for her than opening her mouth. Mm-hmm. So I give her props. Chris Daniels' job, he is a provocateur. He was always a tremendous reporter, I think, given where he works with Sinclair. There is very much he has to, in order to continue to get paid, take on a certain persona. So his job is to poke and get the hot takes and stuff like that. What I will say about her, though, going back to the antipathy that the government, I hate the term socialist and all of this, whatever. Take the labels out of it.
Yeah, let's do that.
You're an idiot if you're going to sit here and your prime constituents who bring in the vast majority of your tax revenue, if you're going to sit there and tell them bye or I don't care or screw these people, which is essentially Shama Saw. I mean, the council for decades has been that way. So she's just the latest.
Bruce Harrell, when he first got into office, he was a bit that way. I don't know if you remember. He's
Sure.
a bit that way towards big business, certainly towards the Seattle Police Department.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
if you don't want to be a cop around here, goodbye. So we pay the best, we're this, we're that. And they couldn't recruit versus Shiznit. The next thing you know, about probably a year, 18 months later, when he's having a hard time getting cops. You don't get cops. Amazon's not happy there in South Lake Union when everyone that works down there doesn't want to go out at night. They don't want to attend the restaurants. People keep breaking into their cars. They don't want to live, work, and play there. And so you saw a shift in him, right? We saw a shift where he got friendlier towards business. He started having summits. He started going on the internet and actually recruiting police officers. He was much kinder to the union. And I think he kind of grew into the job. How come Bruce lost? And I was looking around and I was seeing homelessness. I was seeing people start to at least get into housing and some of the addiction issues and all. It's not something that you can fix and take care of in a night because this is all here generationally. But I started to see improvements and why did this city decide, the pendulum now has to swing the other way to Katie's politics in the way that she frames things, or has a difficulty in framing things?
Well, in my opinion, and you could put a big asterisk, your mileage may vary, it tied into, and if you read a lot of the national political scientists' analysis, the Trump effect, and the extremes, the income inequality, the life just the quality of life issues that were going on caused a lot of the progressives to activate again. And a lot of this is social issues, not economic. I believe that there has always been, if you look at the voting blocks in Seattle, I looked at on my way in. Our vote in 2025 last year, the turnout was about 52%. But of that, you have so many transient young people who are living in these $5,000 a month studio apartments now.
That's right.
They tend to lean uber progressive. So for them, they're not looking even necessarily at the true economic impact. They're looking at, I hate Trump. I am a liberal, therefore I'm going to vote for this person who I know nothing about, who has no street cred, who has nothing. I believe that's why this city went that way. You and I, who actually have to pay a lot more in taxes, business owners and stuff, I think we just got swamped, much like when Shama Sawant came in. She was not good for the city. I don't care about your politics. She did nothing for the vast majority of the infrastructure of the city. And I can tell you stories being at the police department with her and all of that. I believe that's why the city did that it was not based on issues so much as culture and the cultural divide we see nationwide.
It's interesting. My son and I today, and we're just lucky we can afford it. We went to a bakery near Lincoln High School where he goes to school. And we had just 2 egg sandwiches, just over-the-counter sandwiches. And he had a coffee and I had a coffee. Is $38 plus the $5 tip.
Wow.
And I'm like, how do people do this, right? How do they? I have a deal with him. He has my card. And I said, if you're hungry, man, you never have to ask for food. If you need, he's a good kid. I trust him with my card. I said, like today, he was going to go rock climbing with his friends after school.
Fun.
He's like, hey, it's going to be $31 to go rock climbing. He said, that's really expensive. I don't feel like I should go. And I said, just in my heart, between you and I, it's been a long road for him to make friends. These are important. And he's usually wrestling, studying, playing football. It's like, I want him to go rock climbing with his friends. But it's $31.
Yeah.
So there's $38, there's $31. And then we always pack a lunch and we do all that, but he's a hungry, growing kid.
Sure.
And if he stops by to get something to eat somewhere, it's always at least $20, $25. And it's not his fault that food's expensive and I want him to eat. How are people doing that right now in the city of Seattle with 3 and 4 kids?
I don't know. And there's the people, but on the other side of the equation, the bakery owner who you think, oh my God, they're charging me $38, what a ripoff. Minimum wage is over $20 in the city of Seattle. And I'm not debating the value of that because I believe people should make a living wage, but your tax rate is so high, your insurance, your rent. I mean, being in real estate, your friend Laura Miller, whose name I see all over the city in vacant buildings. The cost of doing business is so hard, you can't provide jobs. You have to charge that $38 for the sandwich, which means less people. So it all affects, we are all connected whether we like it or not.
Yeah. Before we get to store number 2, and we're talking about pickleball here in a moment, if you had a moment, because I think a lot of people that live in Seattle, from what I've read, 60% of the people that live here now are millennials or younger. We see this in our real estate business where boomers have moved out, and certainly lots of blue collar. I see lots of cops, firefighters. I was with some of them the other day that now live down in Arizona. Their parents are moving out or dying or passing away, and they're cashing in because their homes are worth so much. And so we have a lot of people here that don't know the history of the city. I see it when I go to a Seahawk game. They say it was so loud last year. Well, it's because they were winning.
Yeah.
When they were losing, all the tickets were sold off, and there's more Niner fans there. So all the 12s and all that bullshit, it's funny to me. And Paul Allen gave us a gift in the way he built that city, and they're talking now about building another stadium. If they build another stadium, the whole advantage they have of the 12s will all go away. Because you and I both know the way that stadium was built, it had to be built that way in order to fit in that part of town near where the Kingdome is. And that will all go away. If they did that to Husky, people look at Husky Stadium, where Paul used to go, and it was so loud when he was a little boy, and then look at Seahawks Stadium. It's the same stadium. It's the reason why, and the way that it's built with those overhangs and the way the sound rolls around in there. It's one of the reasons why, when they were first going to build Seahawks Stadium, he said, hey, I'll fix Husky Stadium. We'll fix it up. And the Huskies will play there on Saturday, and we'll play there on Sunday. And the folks at Mountain Lake pushed back, of course, because that's what we do in Seattle, and they didn't want it. If you were going to sit down, though, with Katie and give her some advice and just say, hey, I know you're a young mayor. Let's say she hired you to be a communications director. Bruce did come around. His messaging did get much better. It didn't work out in the election for him, but I saw him grow as a mayor. How would you coach her up? What would be a couple things that you would tell her?
Boy, number one, start reaching out, building communities. And when we get to pickleball, community is the number one you heard. I see such, and this, again, Don, this is not unique to us here, but the divide between these different constituencies, we are not all the same. We all have different interests. But if I don't understand what you do as a realtor and the families you serve, if I don't understand the bakery owner, if I don't have a relationship with Amazon because I've said screw you, bye-bye, or Starbucks, and I don't understand that Starbucks has 3,000 people in that building, that if they lose their jobs or Starbucks closes that building, which I would predict is probably going to happen at some point because of the rent and et cetera, et cetera. How does anybody legislate, run a board of directors, a school board, if you're not actively working with all of your constituents to find compromise? When I was a reporter in D.C., I tell this story all the time, Don. You would see different lawmakers of different belief systems, politics. They might argue, granted, a lot more respectfully or disagree. But then where the radio gallery was, right next to it was a big reception hall. ConAgra would throw $1,000. Those guys were all drinking together and talking. And at the end of the day, nobody got everything they wanted. That's what I would tell Katie Wilson, is to start extending an olive branch. She doesn't have to sacrifice any of her values, but what do you think that does to anybody who considers a business here if the first thing is, you don't like it, Don, bye-bye? It's like I tell my daughter, even, if you tell me that I've used the term guys. Hey, you guys, how's it going? That is so sexist and racist and I know my daughter will never see this. And what is my reaction if you tell me how wrong I am and how stupid I am and I have to think like you?
Because I do
fuck you. Oh, whoa! Bleep that out.
You're okay.
But anyway, that is what has gone on in our politics across the board. Katie Wilson, at number one, we live in the city together. You represent all of us. Let's start getting people together and figuring out how do we work together for the betterment of all, not just the homeless, not just the renters, everybody, Don. That's what I would tell her. Grow up, for crying out loud.
I think we're all pretty good at that, because when you work at a radio station, I remember people saying, like, how do you sit down and have lunch with Dory Monson? I'm like, well, I don't really sit down and have lunch with him. We actually jump in his convertible and we go get burgers.
He used to drive those Jaguars, I think.
Yeah. They're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And then we talked every other week until the time of his death. And like, how could you talk to him? I'm like, We weren't talking about the things we were talking about on the air. We were talking about him being a basketball coach to his daughter and winning state. Or we were talking about he used to do pregame and postgame for the Seahawks. I did the exact same thing for the Dallas Cowboys and the Oakland Raiders. So we had a lot in common. We love sports. We love kids. We love the community. We love biking. We love working out. We love basketball. We love sports. So we had so many. And then he was really interested. He was thinking about leaving Cairo and doing a podcast, and kind of probably doing the podcast that Brandy Cruz does today. I had someone ask me later, how can you talk to Brandy Cruz? Like, well, I haven't talked to her for a while, but what she's done is brilliant. And she probably has the biggest local podcast following, I think, of anyone in the not in the country, but in Seattle, as far as local folks. And for people that don't know, she was kind of a reporter on Dory's show in the same way that Josh was a reporter on ours. And she has this massive following because she tapped into something that Dory was tapping into. And I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the views. And I think some of it is with a wink and a nod. I don't know. Some of it seems to be theater. And we know that.
Rush Limbaugh, he built a whole career on not believing anything that came out of his mouth.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that a lot of what they hear, especially early on in radio, when we got into radio in the 90s, it was all theater, right? Yeah. And then you started mixing in things that you really felt with theater, and that's where the confusion comes.
Yeah.
But that's where the awesomeness of it all. So that's why in a newsroom, we can talk to anyone because you're always talking to like Tony Miner's politics when he was our news guy was very, very different than Rachel Bell's.
Oh yeah.
But they loved each other, right? And that is what we're missing right now. The inability to get in a room and have a conversation. And I always tell people, I'm like, just go out and volunteer. Volunteer.
Yeah.
somewhere where you don't get it. Like if you feel like you don't get black and brown people, well, go volunteer. Go be a coach at Cleveland High School. That was something that I did. Or go be a big brother to a black or brown child, and don't judge it. Just be around it, and it will get on an airplane and travel somewhere. Travel somewhere that's not America. Just go somewhere else and see the way that people live and the joy that they have.
Dude, get outside of Seattle. I was in Columbus, Ohio for a pickleball business trip a couple of weeks ago. Very different. Fort Lauderdale, Naples, Florida.
Yeah.
Very different. But, just to put a bow on Katie Wilson, though, we have not seen Shamasa want all the way going forward, zero effort to, I wouldn't even call it a reconciliation, but to simply understand the disparity of opinions of all of the interests so that you can actually serve. Remember when people did this because of a public service, not because they had an agenda? And I believe personally, so many of these people who go into these roles are no longer public servants.
Yeah. Let's get to story number 2 in tonight's
Can I push the button?
Let's do it.
Ron and Don's Top 5 at 5.
That's fun.
Number 2.
All right, story number 3 is going to be Josh and Pickleball. Story number 2. Have you been following? We have a big announcement about what's happening at Lincoln High School. Have you been following this story at all?
Of course.
Yeah. For those that don't know, my son goes to Lincoln. Lincoln High School is the oldest city, it's the oldest high school in the city of Seattle. It was born in 1907. And kind of around the 50s and 60s, they tried to do some busing there where they were busing kids. They did the same thing at Magnolia. They did the same thing at the top of Queen Anne. And busing didn't work out, right, after the civil rights. So they stopped busing, and what happened is those schools shrunk. Some of them were sold, and so like Ann Bremner, my attorney, our attorney, our celebrity attorney, we love her. She actually lives in one of those schools on Queen Anne. She's been watching this story. You go over to Magnolia, and there's a beautiful school there by Ella Bailey Park. Ella Bailey was a school teacher in 1927. She lived across the street from the school. She worked at Magnolia Elementary, and they had approached her, and they said, hey, we'd like to take the park and build condos. She goes, no. And in her will, she gave that park to Seattle Public Schools, and she said, every time I look down from heaven, I want to see children playing. Right?
Wow.
So fast forward, you and I did the Cleveland story together, which we've talked about. They were having an issue there. It took 7.5 years to get it built. The levy money had been passed. A lot of black and brown kids there that had been forgotten. And so I went there and volunteered my time. We got involved with the coaches. In fact, I was on with Coach Washington and Coach Paul Arnold, who was a big superstar at the University of Washington. He's now a cop over in Kirkland. And I called him the other day, and I went, Coach, what's going on? I got a ticket in your city. And then I dropped your name, and the cop told me that he didn't even know you. He goes, he knows me. He goes, we work on the same SWAT team. He goes, when Don O'Neill started name dropping, I wasn't having it. He goes, you know, if you get pulled over by me and you're going 10 over, you're gonna get that ticket.
That's hilarious.
So Paul called me, and we were wrapping up. We were talking about it. Anyway, he's gonna come. We have a big meeting. In fact, tonight with our football team, we've had a hard time hanging on to coaches. We have the same problem Cleveland didn't have, where we lost our field, and so because we were mothballed. Now we're out of mothballs. We ranked number 5 in the state for high school education out of over 1,000 schools. Number 5. Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of smart kids there. It's one of the reasons Gunnar, my son, wanted to go there. And I asked him at one point, I said, hey, do you want to go to Eastside Catholic or Archbishop or O'Day or somewhere where they at least have a field? In fact, O'Day's been building a field. He goes, no, Dad, I'm a Lynx for life.
Wow.
And in fact, we have shirts we're handing out tonight to all the parents and kids that say Lynx for life on it, which is kind of cool. Anyway, it's the same thing, Josh. In 2022, the levy money, it was passed. It's for all the school fields around here that were supposed to be fixed up, which they've been. It's for Memorial Stadium. A lot of people think it's just the Kraken that have been working on Memorial Stadium. There's a big chunk of money in the 2022 levy that's a part of that, right? So it's not just the Kraken, but it's also money from Seattle Public Schools and from the Seattle taxpayers.
Sure.
And we actually will get to play some home games there when it's done, but it won't be for a couple of years, and my son will be a senior, is what we're hoping. So we've been working on this field, pushback in the community, people threatening to sue. This is where I had enough, and I don't think I've shared this story. I went to, because Seattle Public Schools says, well, it's Parks, and Parks says, well, it's Seattle Public Schools. Just so people know, Seattle Public Schools has the money, they have the levy money, but it's Parks that usually owns the field and they control it, right? Yeah. So we're up on 45th and Free. We're basically on 45th Stone Way, around that area is where Lincoln is by Hamilton. And so they've been kicking the can around about they don't even have a site.
Of course not.
And then anytime they have these meetings, no one from Seattle Parks comes and no one from Seattle Public Schools. Nobody comes. But they have these meetings, and then they say they want to have these public meetings, but no one comes to hear the public comments, and you're all just sitting there in the gym. There's one at Lincoln High School one day, and I was just looking around going, what are we doing here? So I went to Seattle Parks. And there are 5 people there from Lincoln, and I think there's 2 people there from the neighborhood. In Seattle Parks, they have a stopwatch, and they love you have 2 minutes, and then people start talking, and then they just cut you off, and they don't say anything.
Oh yeah,
and they just go to the next person, and then you say whatever you're going to say, and then they stop you, and then they go there, and they're all sitting there looking at their shoes, or they're looking. The board members they're looking at their phones, they're just dicking around, and you're just like, so I waited until everyone spoke. And I'm pissed. I am pissed. So I had a can of LaCroix like I'm sitting here with right now. And I took this can of LaCroix and I drank the can of LaCroix. And I went up and I said, hey, just want to let everyone know I'm Don of the Ron and Don Show. And what happened at Cleveland High School is happening at Lincoln High School. And we have a bunch of adults here that are looking at their phones, and I don't even need 2 minutes. Does everybody have their stopwatch going? And I already heard Eric call from the neighborhood and say that he's going to sue everybody. So Eric, hello, go ahead and sue so we can get a summary judgment, because I don't know if you know Ann Bremner is our attorney. So she's ready for you to sue. Anyway, so I took this can and I kicked it as hard as I could across the floor. And then we had these shirts made that said, stop kicking the can on kids, right? We just got focused because that's really what they're doing. And I let them know that I would have every one of their jobs. I went down to Seattle Public Schools. I took a picture of where Ben, the superintendent, parks, where all the board members park. When you go down there, I go down there as a coach to volunteer, and I'm basically an SPS employee now. So you go down there, his parking space is open. He's never at work. The board members are never there. The workers inside, and it's down by Starbucks. You know where it is.
Exactly.
It's down
sure.
by Starbucks. Where your
The
wife
John
used to-
Stanford Center.
Yeah, and you can't even. There's nowhere for you to park, but there's open, and Ben has the first slot, right?
Yeah.
And so I went in there one day looking for Ben, and Ben wasn't there, and I'm like, oh, I'm not surprised by this that Ben's not here. So we started inviting him to our meetings. He didn't come. So then you saw me explode on social media. It's exploded. It's like hundreds of thousands of, like, it's completely viral. Anything that I post now about this particular field, and people think I'm doing it because of my son. My son will never play on the field because these adults have kicked the can on kids. So we had a rally at Lincoln. I think 600 people were there. Wow. I think 500 of the people there, 550 were Lincoln kids come in there. Kids come in there. They got their soccer jerseys on. The football players come in. It's not even football season. They got their they line up. You see the girls come in, the lacrosse team, the baseball team. You look around, you see all these kids, and then my son goes over because it was a Saturday meeting a couple Saturdays ago, and we got the word that Ben wasn't going to come, and I wrote him. And I'm like, this is a big mistake. I want you to Google Larry Nyland. Larry Nyland is no longer the superintendent of Seattle Public Schools because what happened at Cleveland. I want you to Google my name in Cleveland High School and see what happened to that superintendent. And I know you make $425,000 a year, and I sent him a picture of his parking spot. I haven't told anyone this. And I'm an employee now. I'm one of their coaches, right? And so I just said, I would encourage you to be at this meeting. Kids will be at this meeting. Parents will be at this meeting. And the community deserves to be heard. Like, if there's opposition, they should be heard. Yeah. You're not hearing them. So you're not making a decision. You come and talk to the community. If there's pushback on trees or skating, just come and listen to everyone. So he came, and I had my son go over, and I had a Lincoln. I got 2 hats the other day, 2 coaching hats. And my son asked me, he goes, why do you need 2? I said, well, you'll find out. So he and the football team went over and presented the hat to Ben, who's the superintendent. Ben couldn't have been nicer. Could not have been nicer. He stood up and he said, hey, I'm here to listen to the community, but I'm also here to make a decision. He kind of made a mistake when he said, I'm also to be here to be an observer, right? So there's a group of us now, and especially angry moms. Boy, you get angry moms involved with the superintendent, they could usually get things done. So we sent out a message to him the other day, just letting him know that Ann Bremner had reached out. She saw everything that's going on. She said, you know what? Let's go get a summary judgment. Let's get this field built.
Wow.
I live in one of the old school buildings. You know what she's done for the Powell boys. You know what
Sure.
she's done for police officers, firefighters here. You know, anytime anyone's taken on the city council and winning, we had an issue with Sally Bagshaw. She took on Sally. Sally's no longer on the city council. So Ann is our girl. So she's ready to go. We send a message to Ben on a Sunday about coming to Lincoln School and announcing when the field's going to be built. He wrote us back in 5 minutes on a Sunday. It used to be he didn't even write us back. Then it took 5 days. He wrote us back in 5 minutes. I think he saw M. Bremner's name, and I think he shit his pants. Let's get to story number 3 in Ron and Don's
I
Top
thought it was
5.
Shizza, by the way.
Ron and Don's Top 5 Back 5.
We could cuss.
Number
and
3.
Sometimes just that word is the right word. Yeah. Shiznit your pants.
Oh, Shiznit, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Story number 3 in Ron and Don's Top 5 at 5. Speaking of Seattle parks,
Oh, yeah. This goes right into it.
Josh is really into something now. In fact, we're going to talk about something in the second segment tonight. We're going to talk about you and I sitting in a room one night doing the 12 steps together. So we're going to talk about that story. Hope I don't cry, and I hope you don't cry, but it's a really important story that I think it's a story of hope, and I want people to hear about that. And it's a story I don't think I've shared before publicly. So
Is there any chance you won't cry? Like, you're already starting to break up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
How long have you known Matt?
Well, and he's always off the mic, but he has a mic, so it doesn't, which is my favorite thing.
The engineer,
Matt,
yeah,
he leans into Matt off the mic, who has a mic and talks anytime he wants to, which is perfect for this show. You did the same thing.
Have Mike will travel.
So this is something. And the reason I bring up the 12 steps is you and I have talked before about having addiction issues in our life. And it seems like you've gone from one addiction to the other, and it seems like that your addiction now is pickleball. Tell everybody about how you got involved in pickleball, what you're doing with pickleball, how wonderful pickleball is. Are people playing pickleball around the world? Because I know anywhere I go in the country, it seems like they are. And then I know there's also an issue right now, because I saw it in the Times the other day with Seattle. It's the same board. It's the same board.
It's
and
the
I want to go.
same
I want to
board.
go. If you need me to come and kick a can, they saw me do it the other night, and I'll do it again for you if you want me to. Stop kicking the can on kids and stop kicking the can on pickleball. Tell us about your love for pickleball. How did that
Well,
happen?
so, it's funny. I mean, taking a step back, pickleball was invented on Bainbridge Island, 1965, by Lieutenant Governor Joel Pritchard and another guy, Barney McCallum. They had places on Bainbridge. Kids were bored one summer day. They went. They're like, we're going to make up a game. What do we have? We have a badminton net. We have ping pong paddles. We have a wiffle ball. Pickleball was born in a driveway on Bainbridge Island on 1965. In 1965, fast forward decades, it was very popular all over the country to an extent, a subculture, if you will, primarily retirement communities. It played around here quite a bit, but it was underneath. When the pandemic hit, Don, you'll remember in 2020, there were a couple things we could do, right? We could play golf. Well, that excludes anybody who doesn't want to spend 6 hours and doesn't have $100 for a round. Pickleball took on a life of its own. In May, it's actually 6 years to this last week on my birthday. Some friends of ours brought over a Costco bag of paddles. We had 2 courts in Maple Leaf, just concrete, whatever. My wife and I started playing. Fast forward. Somewhere along the line, I fell in love with it. And that same thing has been started happening really in 2020 across the country. And pickleball for the last 5 years has been the fastest growing sport in the United States. Tens of millions of people play it. The growth continues. It hasn't. So pickleball has been truly transformational in my life. In the pandemic early, I was depressed. My kid was depressed. I didn't know what I was going to do. I felt like I'm too old for basketball, skiing, ice hockey, all these things I used to do. Pickleball opened up a door for me to really tap back into my youth, to fitness, to community, which is so huge. That is the experience that I have observed nationally and now globally around pickleball. It is truly transformational. And people say, well, why is it so popular? Number one, we all played something as kids. Many people lose society beats it out of them. They get too old, they get hurt, they get a job. You can't go play basketball at 40 years old. Many people can't. Your Achilles. Pickleball, if you can go like this, you can play. You don't have to have any more skill than that. Now, it can be as athletic as you want it to be. At the highest levels, it's insane. It opened a door for millions of people to tap into that innate desire to play, to be athletic, to move. None of us want to be fat asses sitting on the couch, right? But we tell ourselves, I can't do that. You can do pickleball. It is apolitical. It is community. You're in the parks. The nature of the sport, it's a doubles game. Tennis singles, you're 100 yards on the other side of the net. Right, with one other person.
I didn't think of that.
You don't integrate with anybody else. You and I go play tennis for an hour and a half. We're not talking to anybody else. When you go to Green Lake.
And you're so far away from it. I didn't even think of that.
When you go to Green Lake, Miller, and tennis is hard. Let's face it. You want to go out there at 40 years old, 35, and you've never done a racket
Snap
sport.
your Achilles. Yeah.
Or you just can't play. I mean, this thing, it's, the racket's out there, so it's discouraging. Pickleball creates this opportunity for people to come together to play collectively, to have a sense of accomplishment. When you hit that ball on there, I believe there's a serotonin, endorphin release. You feel accomplishment. In golf, you're lucky to do that 4 times in 6 hours for $100 to have that feeling. And then on top of that, pickleball is a game of doubles primarily, and there was this open play culture. You play a game with 4 people, you come off, 4 people go on. While you are waiting, you go to Green Lake, there on a nice day, there's 40, 50 people out there waiting. You become friends. You have to, you don't have to. People bring their dogs, they're
chatting while they're waiting.
You and I become friends. I don't know who you are, but we become friends, and that is what has been built around the country and now around the world. So there's my whole treatise on why pickleball has taken hold.
I love that.
Here in the city of Seattle, you're going to be shocked to know that the city of Seattle, the Seattle Parks and Recreation Department has been woefully deficient to the point of disdain for the pickleball community. We have the growth over the years, the hundreds of thousands of people in the city who have grown. Obviously, 2018, you didn't need many courts. And we don't, by the way, have dedicated pickleball courts. There's 5 total in the city. You had tennis courts, underutilized. The sport of tennis is going down. So they started communities started putting tape down.
I see that in Ingram when we go.
Ingram is great because that's the school district that did that. That is
that
not
right?
the Parks
We
Department.
We have to bus up there, so it's about a 25-minute bus ride.
Because the Parks Department won't build you a
correct
football field. Okay, just checking.
So we wait till the Ingram team gets done, then we got there, and then they turn the lights off at 9 o'clock. But I have to say, when I pull in there, the parking lot is always full, and I see exactly what you're talking about. People put their rackets up on the fence to get in line.
Yep.
And then you see a lot of people and I've heard Oprah talk about this, Jim Carrey talk about this, Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, because they play a lot when they're in Hawaii. They'll go by themselves, and you don't
100%.
You don't have to be one of them and be famous. You do end up making friends, and I see that when I go. I'm like, wow, that looks fun. When I get done with football, I want to go over there and play and chat with people.
And that is the culture. And you know what? When I first started, I was like, oh my God, I suck. I can't do this. And people, Josh, come on, let's do it. I will show you. That's changing a little bit just because of the nature of people coming in. But what has happened in Seattle, as the sport has grown, the city has done, I'm going to literally, not kind of, literally nothing. All of our municipal parks, and up until a year and a half ago, we didn't have a dedicated indoor pickleball only facility. And we can talk about the industry at another time.
And there's over 500 parks that they take care of as well. So
what? You know what? And of those,
and lots of tennis courts, right?
Lots of tennis courts that are underutilized. And so what happened? The community said, "Hey, we have 80 people at Green Lake waiting a half an hour to play one game, and you go down to Lower Woodland.
Yeah,
there are 10 beautiful tennis courts." And guess what? There's 3 people playing half the time. Right above on 50th, the upper part below the zoo, there are 4 or 5 tennis courts. Each tennis court, you can put 2 to 4 pickleball courts on. Do the math. 2 people playing for 90 minutes on a tennis court versus 60 people playing on those courts. So there has been there's a group, the Seattle Metro Pickleball Association, nonprofit advocates in the community for years. Gone to the city, said, look, here's the data.
And they show up in force. I've seen pictures of them.
Well, they are more and more, too.
Yeah,
but here's the data. Here's the, you know what? We have all of these people who want to play pickleball. You are not serving them what can we do? The city's response for 4 years, we can study this. It's
always study.
It's going to go through
community feedback.
And we will get to what's going on now. But what's ridiculous, Don, literally zero response. There was a guy, Frank Cippone, who Matt on the mic off the camera may have remembered from Como TV.
I like that better.
Is very active in pickleball, has been for years. He has a grant, a pledge from a woman whose husband was killed up on Lake City Way, crazy person who shot a bus driver and shot him and murdered him. This guy was a big pickleball player. Frank has $2 million committed to go to Magnuson Park, where there are a bunch of tennis courts sitting unused and empty.
Oh, wow.
3 years. Wow. The Parks Department, we need to propose. Oh, no, we can't do that, because if we do that, then we got to do it in Rainier Beach. We got to do the bed.
What's the politics behind it? Because it's always politics, right?
Somebody
must like tennis more than they like pickleball.
Okay, here's the politics. All of the racket sport policy, the racket sport board and all of that, tennis players. For years, there were no pickleball players on it. Even with the growth, it's all driven out of the Amy Yee Tennis Center. And so as a result, the antipathy that the tennis community has, and that's changing, and this is not about pickleball versus tennis. You can coexist.
Sure.
But easier for the Parks Department. What I've seen in my work I've done a lot of advocacy over the last 4 years. They would rather do nothing than something or anything.
I'd agree with that.
And there's an inertia that pervades the Parks Department. What I've seen too is just a load of shit. Mayor Harrell talked about we're going to do this, nothing. The Diaz, AP Diaz, the former superintendent of park. We know, we see it. Zero. Yeah. So now fast forward to what has happened. What has happened is you have this huge demand that keeps growing. You have taxpayers who want to be served. The Parks Department recently came out with what it calls its draft racket sports proposal or policy. And this is how we're going to handle all of these issues in the future. Number one, their sort of thesis is pickleball and tennis cannot coexist, which is a load of crap. I have been in Chicago at Maggie Daley Park in Grant Park, biggest cities in the country. There's 10 tennis courts. From 8 to 10 a.m., it's pickleball. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., it's tennis.
That's perfect.
How freaking hard is that? But the city won't even consider that. So their draft policy, which just came out, and that's what you're seeing all the fighting, says, oh no, we can't have dual line courts. This can't work because there's conflict. There's no conflict. You don't want to try and resolve anything. So there are areas that have become either de facto hubs where pickleball players are playing more. Green Lake, Rainier Beach, Magnolia. What the city has said, no, we're going to redistribute. This is going to be only tennis. That's going to be quote unquote only pickleball, but we're not going to do anything about those courts. So they're saying we're going to pull out of these parks. As a result, the city's going to lose dozens and dozens of places where people play pickleball on city parks. Number one, when we talk about equity, Rainier Beach. At the Rainier Beach Community Center, there are a bunch of tennis courts, but somehow the city, the Parks Department thinks that that's okay to pull it out of one of the most disadvantaged. And guess what, with pickleball? I have 50 paddles in my car, by the way.
That's equity.
I can give you a paddle for free, the wiffle ball. You can go play. You don't need special shoes or anything. Somehow the Parks Department, because they're not willing to even look reasonably, they lie about their data. They grossly exaggerate the number of quote-unquote pickleball courts when it's lines on a cracked thing that somebody put in chalk. So politically, what has happened is the community has come out in force and said, this is not acceptable. There are thousands and thousands of us, and they are fighting it tooth and nail. However, Josh's disclaimer is what I have seen is, frankly, the Parks Board does not give a shit about anybody. They're going to do the least amount possible for anything. And so it's a real uphill fight, but the community is hoping that they will just put a pause and be reasonable and look at this again, look at the data, look at the number of people who are playing. And Don, last thing I'll say, and then I will take a breath because I'm thirsty. All you have to do, and I did this, and I showed the Parks Department, I sent them video of this on a Sunday. Literally, I think I counted 70-something people at Green Lake for the 8 pickleball courts waiting to play. I went down the mile to Lower Woodland where the 10 courts are. 4 of the courts were being used by 2 people each, so 80 versus 8. And then the upper courts I mentioned, where there's the other ones, 0 people. I showed that to the city 4 years ago. People argued. People have gone to the city. And guess what? They go to these meetings. They get 2 minutes. The Parks Department doesn't answer them, doesn't talk to them. And there's one poor bastard.
Eric. It's usually Eric who calls in.
Garner.
And he's going to, ours is Eric who's going to sue everybody if it doesn't go his way. And he calls in.
Well, the guy at the Parks Department who's in charge of this, he goes and smiles and says this, we're listening, but you can't have a conversation with him. We'll get back to you. So that is the state of what's going on.
So final question on this, and I know that you're involved, I think, with pickleball centers now.
Yep.
Why don't people just go play pickleball at the centers? Is it cost prohibitive for some people?
It's cost, period.
It's cost, period.
Right now, I mean, that's like saying, why don't you just go to a private basketball place?
Is it? Because I've never been, and I don't know how much it costs.
Yeah, so a pickleball, so we have just seen in the last year here, there are a number now of for-pay pickleball facilities that are dedicated. Pickler and Fremont just opened, Picklewood and Sodo, our place, Side Out, Tsunami Pickleball Center. There's a plug. Call me if you want to play.
Your Side Out?
We're Side Out Tsunami Pickleball Center. We have 26 courts, 100,000 square feet in South Seattle, next to where the old Six Stadium used to be.
What's it called again? Side Tsunami.
Read the freaking hat,
well,
dude.
I didn't get a hat. Did you get a hat? No hat. Matt,
hats are, well, I
Matt
didn't
off
know.
the mic, who's on the mic, who's off the camera.
I got a Lincoln shirt the other day.
The hats are
Yeah,
on order,
I brought in
man.
a Lincoln shirt.
I got no side out hat.
No
The
hat.
hats are on order, but here's the bottom. I mean, you have to pay, right? And
You got to pay for a hat?
No, not for the hat.
dude. The hats are
I gave him that shirt for $5.
retail. These hats are $40, okay? Or I'll steal if you no. But seriously, I mean, you have to pay, right? And they're only in certain places. What pickleball is the most inclusive activity. I mean, how many people actually swim and use the city pool, right? Let's be realistic. How many people play basketball? How many people? We could go on and on. So pickleball has been an activity for years and years that is just part of the services that we pay taxes for and should be given the same treatment. Why should tennis, which is so much more exclusive because of its physical limitations, be given preferential treatment?
It's cool that you care, because a lot of people would come in here and they'd say, well, you can't play outside, so come on down to my place and play inside, and 2-for-1 roast beef all night long. I'll give you a hell of a deal. I think that's really kind of nice, because I know you, because you really believe in the equity of that.
Well, and that's the community. And if you live in Rainier Beach, and well, we're closer in, but if you live in, West Seattle doesn't have anything, so that you have to drive. You have to. There's the light rail. We have a light rail stop very nearby. We're near Columbia City, but it's a matter. Why should now I have to go if I live in Crown Hill, for example, and should my kid, if he wants to play pickleball, have to go down to or go to Green Lake, for example? It's just not feasible when they can go do any other activity. It is a matter, Don, of equity. And pickleball is a game, there's a culture that it is truly inclusive. And we want them on. Frankly, there are plenty of people. We have 1,200 members, 300 on the wait list. We don't need more people to come to our place. This is not a business play. Let them play.
Let's get to story number 4 tonight's top 5.
Ron and Don's top 5 at 5.
Number 4.
All right. Anytime I go anywhere to open house, in fact, I had a guy named Al and a different guy. I believe his name was Joe. It was Joe. And people come in. They'll come in and see me, not because they want to buy the house, because they want to know where's Rachel Bell and what happened to Livy Dankman and what is Josh Kearns up to. So people that are diehard Cairo people and part of the Ron and Don Nation, if you go all the way back, and we talked about, and we borrowed something from Mitch Levy over at KJR, the Faithful 51, they'll say, hey, I'm for it. We did that in another market. I think we did that in Dallas, and he stole it from someone else as well. Everything in radio that's great is stolen. Just like when Bob Rivers used to do Win a Girl Wednesday, you could win a girl on a Wednesday and go on a date, but the trick was the whole morning show would go with you. Yeah, so we did that as well. We stole that from Bob, and I called him and I said, hey, we're going to do a little Win a Girl Wednesday down here in Dallas. So the interesting thing is people always want to talk about radio with me. They'll stop me in the store. My son's like, Dad, what are your thoughts on radio right now? Is radio dead? And I will say, when you look at the Cairo model, the reason it works right now even though it runs at a deficit, is because the Mormon Church owns it. The Mormon Church owns a lot of big businesses, and it's just a write-off for them. I think at some point, if they stop writing it off, I think those stations will do what every other big stations have done. They'll either go back to being a mom and pop, or they'll fold the signals into each other. So if you look at the Big 870, which was a sister station to Cairo, and we were down there during Katrina, they took the AM and the FM, and they basically put those signals together because they can go out and sell that for advertising. KOA Radio. When you look at KOA in Denver, and I could sit here and name stations all over the country where they've taken the AM and the FM, they put them together. So you have Cairo. I think at some point, Josh, what we're going to see, I think the Mormon Church will bail. I think a mom and pop, and it's interesting because they used to be all mom and pop owned. That's when radio was really fun, at least when Ron and I. And then you had all these big companies come in, and that's where Ron and I got fired a lot because we'd go somewhere and they're like, hey, we love you, and we know you're number one in the market right now, but we're going to put Rick Dees on from California because he's a lot cheaper, and he's on they call it being on the bird, and now you're sitting there and you're out of a job. So there was all this, what do they call it? Not consolation.
Consolidation.
Consolidation. Lots of consolidation going on. I think what we're going to see happen is as these stations now become penny stocks, we talk about legacy radio. I don't know that radio will ever go away, but I think it'll continue to find its place. But I think a station like Cairo and ESPN, AM and FM, I think they'll put those signals together, and then you'll still have the tent poles of probably the Seahawks and the Mariners if you can get them. And it used to be you could drive ratings with the Mariners and Seahawks because it's the only place you could come. It was exclusive. Now it's not because you can go anywhere on the net and you can find that. I think it is extraordinary that Cairo, ESPN, and they own another station I think they call The Red now, that used to be The Truth, that they're still able to hire local talent because a lot of stations have put everyone on the bird. What is your take on local radio? And the reason you and I love it so much is because of all the cause radio, or even some of the things that we've been talking about with pickleball or the things at Lincoln High School. We used to do all that on the radio together. What I've learned is I can do that on the internet just as well. And I always wondered, can we do cause radio, and will people still react to it? And they will. We still, I think last year working with Les Schwab, we had the biggest toy drive that we've ever had, right? It saddens me when I look at $1 million during the holidays that we used to raise for foster kids. I think they raise like $70,000 now or something. Cairo really does know, and they're the Mormon Church, you would think.
Hey, we used to do that, the Treehouse for Kids telethon, and we'd go on and all of that. Now it's, people would come in and we'd have bands, and it was a big deal. Now it's, a couple of hours of programming.
Yeah, and if you know people in the building, it's programming that they don't really want.
Not at all.
They just don't want a headline going, Cairo walks away from foster kids at Treehouse. So they've been trying to back out of that deal for quite some time. What is your take on local radio, the power of it, and where do you think it's going, and will it have a spot in the future? What do you see?
Increasingly irrelevant to any of our lives, and people ask me this all the time.
Do they? Yeah, me too.
Terrestrial radio serves very little purpose anymore. You referenced the internet. I mean, let's face it, we can get content anywhere. And radio, the magic of radio was that intimacy, and primarily in your car, right, or whatever. You were talking to me. It wasn't a group medium. But there are a million podcasts out there that speak to me, and there are podcasts, the best ones have a community. Amy Poehler's podcast, Dak Shepard, these people, what you have done, the magic of Ron and Don, and this is what Cairo, to me, you're firing, and this is not me kissing your ass because I really want no part of that.
I as well. And Matt on the mic will turn the cameras off.
Until you're in your coach's shorts, the tight bike 70s coach
and the spot
coach's shorts.
And the spot bill
Well,
shoes.
they'll look good with the T-shirt Matt has.
Don't they?
No, but seriously, Don, when you think about when I got into, I started in radio in high school. I was playing punk. I heard punk rock on the radio station, on my college radio station, at KXLU, which was Loyola Marymount. And I called in the middle of the night, and I got this person. They let me come down and hang out, and I could spin some records. I couldn't get that music and then, therefore, this community anywhere else. When I went into college radio, I thought I was going to, DJ fun, whatever. I got into news and all of that, and it was that ability to build community and to connect, right? Let's fast forward to now, the Ron and Don show. If you look at Yes, you can get information in the morning show, and Dave Ross would give us his analysis and all that. Well, guess what? Why should I wait for traffic on the 10s when I can look right here on my Google? It tells me it's so the decreasing value, but then more importantly, Don, look at the evolution, the pivot that was made. I knew Ron and Don as a listener. Take Josh, the colleague, out of the equipment. People loved you. They felt a connection to you. They couldn't connect with you there anymore. That, of course, brought a monetary value for the station. Advertisers wanted to be a part of that. Well, now let's fast forward. Why, if I'm a car dealer in Puyallup, why would I advertise on Cairo Radio at what they want to charge when I can do metapixels on the website so that when somebody searches, I want to buy a car in Puyallup, and I can bid that on Google or Facebook for $2 a lead? There, in a nutshell, is why I believe there is no future for terrestrial radio, because who uses terrestrial radio? Older people. Guess what happens to older people? Yeah. We freaking die.
Yeah, I saw it. I was doing driving cars and doing ads for Mercedes-Benz of Linwood. And the gentleman was retiring, and he said, my son's taking over, and he's canceling all TV and all radio.
Sure, why not?
And he's going to the net. And their numbers have never been bigger.
Of course.
And it was a 27-year-old kid at the time that was taking over Mercedes-Benz of Linwood, which when you think about who buys a Mercedes, and people at the radio station are like, wow, that'll never work because it's an older crowd. I go into an airport and look who's addicted to their phone. It's ma and pa. There's people that are 70 years old, 80 years old that are staring at their phones. Anytime someone signs into one of my short-term rentals, it's the older people now who panic, absolutely panic when they sign in and they can't sign on to the internet or the internet goes down. That's who you hear from immediately. I watch them check in. And if the internet doesn't work or they can't sign on with 20 minutes, I'm hearing from them. So, and those are the Mercedes-Benz of Linwood buyers. It's an older buyer.
And if I go here, Don, right now, and I'm searching on Instagram, for example, I'm surfing cool cars. Guess what? The third scroll on here is Mercedes of Linwood. Check this out, because
and also because it just listened to our phones just listen to us.
Well, that goes without saying.
Yeah, we're gonna get all kinds of just from our phones being here when we leave, and it's gonna happen to Matt on the mic, off camera.
Mercedes of Linwood is coming into our phones.
Yeah. All right. Final story in tonight's top 5.
Hold on. Give me a check of it. I'm out of practice.
Ron and Don's top 5 back 5.
Number 5.
I think I know what it is, but I don't know. You and I have done a lot of cool stories together, and we have a deep love for one another. What is you're a great storyteller, and I miss your stories on the radio. I do. What's the favorite story? And whether it was at Cairo or somewhere else, what's your favorite story that you ever covered and why?
You know, you said I couldn't name one, but I will tell you the ones that come to mind. I mean, selfishly, I got to be in the locker, and you mentioned the Sonics. I was there in 96.
Oh, you were?
I got to interview Jordan and Pippen and Gary Payton, and I got to be in all these. So for me, selfishly, it was the access to all.
And it's when they didn't have podcasts.
They didn't have any of that. But I've been to fires, floods, flown in helicopters, gone around the world I went with Keiko the killer whale to Iceland. Remember Keiko?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the best one, right? With Keiko, it was like, oh yeah, we're going to take this animal that has been fed, hand-fed by humans in a little tank for 18 years. Now we're going to go, hey, go be. It's like taking your dog Charlie and putting him out in the woods and say, go be a wild animal. That's what Keiko did. He eventually died. Anyway, but I thought of this. The stories that come to my mind are those stories where I'm not going to take credit for any of them, made a difference in somebody else's lives. One that came to my mind, one night, it was bitter cold winter, and I was going to have to cover some bullshit, flooding, ankle deep flooding, urban flooding, whatever.
Dumpster fire.
It's snowing at the pass. You're going to be shocked to know, Don, that it snows at Snow Comic anyway. And we got like I don't remember, a phone call, whatever, from the Union Gospel Mission. They said, we got people out here that are basically freezing to death. We don't have blankets. And I went to whoever was in charge. I said, we got to do something about, no, that's boring. People don't care about that. And I basically said, fire me if you don't like it. I ran a thing. people donated so many blankets that night, like we're talking within 2 hours, that we got a call back from them a little bit later saying, tell people we've got enough blankets. I think of those things. There was a woman, this was one that came to us, they reached out to you. This woman had fostered the most troubled, abused children. I don't know if you may remember this when I tell you.
Oh, I'm going to cry. Yeah.
And
Ooh.
here it is, Matt. Here it comes. They had reached out to you.
Is this the rocking chair?
No, this is a woman who had fostered. She died, and they didn't have the money to bury her. Right. And so I went out there, and we did the story, and your community, the Ron and Don community.
Nation. Ron and Don Nation.
I'm more about community. Whatever. Hey, yo, dude, how do we mute his mic?
Yeah.
I don't know how to. Anyway, we were able collectively through that story, Don, even though that's the kind of thing classic, the news director and your program director, God, these assholes. We do, why are they doing this? It's so sad and all that. And those people reached out to me after these, they were women now, but they'd had horrible, horrible lives. And this woman who had fostered them had nothing. They were in like a trailer out Buckley or somewhere. Those stories are the ones, Don, when you say, what are your favorites?
Yeah.
We had a bunch of them.
We had a bunch of them. I remember interviewing the woman who would go into shelters and the moms had OD'd from fentanyl.
Yep.
The babies were addicted to fentanyl. Mm-hmm. And you would go in and you would sit in a rocking chair all night and you would just rock that fentanyl baby.
Yep.
I remember talking, and some of those babies would not make it. Some of those babies would die.
There was a lady, you set me down, or we went down. There was somewhere down in Renton or Burien or something. This woman, that was she was the angel.
Yeah. What about?
Can I tell you one other? Sorry. Can I tell you one fun story that?
But first you have to tell the story because this is what I'll always remember you for. If I was going to give you a eulogy, I would talk about the little girl, the oxygen tank, and the service dog.
That was. Well, the oxygen tank that's a story that I was thinking I hadn't thought about. So
I think that when I think of you and the power of story, and that was you got Ron and I involved, but it was really your story. Can you share that story? Because you changed that little girl's life. Because I remember her going to school and feeling the way she felt because she felt so awkward because she was on oxygen, and you changed her life. How'd you do that?
Well, that little girl, she had health issues, as I recall, for many years, and I don't remember if she was 7 or 8.
She was 8.
How do you remember that?
I remember.
You didn't smoke as much weed as I did.
Right.
She and the family, she wouldn't go to school. She was so self-conscious because she needed supplemental oxygen all the time.
Yeah, she had tubes in and out of her nose.
Oh, she had, what do you call that, a calendula, something like that. Anyway.
And the kids would pick on her when she went to school.
Always. And so she didn't want to go, and she felt so horrible. So we went, we met them, you sent me down, and I will say that you always vetted them. We never got nobody scammed us, because I would go, and I'd go to their houses and meet them. And this little girl so touched my heart that we talked, we did that. There was it was realized, somebody realized that if she had, there can be a service dog that can carry her supplemental oxygen wherever she goes. We found the place up in Bellingham. I'll never forget. And I went up there and multiple times, and we went through the training, and you don't know what dog is going to make it. There's a great documentary, as an aside, that Rob Lowe does the narration for on Netflix called Inside the Mind of a Dog.
And the first dog didn't make it.
All about, and the first one didn't, and they did, but you know what? They rode that out, and we stayed with it.
We had to raise $25,000 on the radio.
Yes, we did.
You came back, and they're like, "I found a dog, but here's the catch: it takes $25,000 to train the dog." And then we had to raise another $25,000 because we raised the 25 for the first dog, and the first dog didn't catch, and so we raised $50,000. But it was really your story.
Well, whatever. We're all part of the nation, as Matt put. You know what?
Talk about when the little girl then went back to school with her dog, and the dog was named Peanut Butter Buttercup or something like that. Ron remembers the name.
Oh my God! It was it was something that's funny that you remember.
It was like an 8-word name.
She became one of the most popular kids at school
Because of her dog.
because of the dog. And it truly transformed her life. And talking to the parents and the school, it changed the kids around her because it created a sense of empathy and awareness, and that we're not different, that we all have these connections. I do want to share the one funny part of this story, though, that I don't know if you remember this. So I'm interviewing her the first time, and all of a sudden she starts gagging. And she said, and I'm like, oh, in my mind, this kid's going to drop dead on me
remember that.
right here.
Yeah.
And finally she goes, and I'm like, oh my God, what is it? What is it? She's, you're standing on my hose. True story.
You want to share a fun story, or was that the fun story?
That was the fun story.
All right. Don't go anywhere. Don't forget this segment of tonight's Top 5 at 5 is brought to you by TeamLisa.com. For all your mortgage needs, just go to TeamLisa.com.
With a Y.
That's Team Lisa with a Y, TeamLisa.com, the official mortgage broker of The Ron and Don Show.
Hey, it's Ron and Don here, our brand new sponsor, TeamLisa.com. That's TeamLisa.com. That's Lisa with a Y, TeamLisa.com. She is our mortgage broker here on the Ron and Don network. And so, Lisa, many people, they've had a divorce, maybe there's a death in the family, they're getting that new place, and they're really sensitive to their monthly payment. Do you have a way to control what my payment is going to be?
Absolutely. And let's just face it, things are expensive. But what I want to tell you is there's so many different ways you can structure your mortgage payment to make the payment lower. So if you're looking online at a payment calculator and you're getting discouraged, don't stop there. Give us a call. We can model out a few different things.
So one of them is I can buy down the interest, correct?
Correct.
All right, you can buy down the interest. I can do a 2-1 discount? Is that what it's
2-1
called?
buy down.
2-1 buy down. So there's
Yep.
a lot of different ways. And sometimes I can even get the seller to pay for it.
Hopefully.
All right. So Lisa's got all the tricks up her sleeve. She knows what to do. Give them a call or go to the website teamlisa.com. That's teamlisa.com. That's LYSA, teamlisa.com.
If you have a friend that is ready to start their real estate journey, send them to ronanddonsitdown.com.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Ron and Don Show. Josh Kearns is here, and you know he used to be our assigned reporter to the Ron and Don Show. Those were a lot of fun days.
I think I was self-appointed, by the way, just for the record. I don't think anybody actually assigned me.
No, I was.
You claimed me.
I did, and then they told me one day. They said he's your reporter. You guys sound good to go. You were saying something off the mic, and then we're gonna jump back on the mics and talk about something we did up in my room. And no, we had all our clothes on, right? That I can remember. We'll talk about that in a moment. You're talking about Dory Monson, though, Dave Ross, and we're sitting here doing a podcast right now. We just did an hour and 15 minutes. It's much easier to do because you don't have to take all these breaks. And radio is very challenging because they're called stop downs. And so you might do a segment for 8 to 12 minutes, but then you stop down for 7 to 8 minutes where you do news, traffic, and then you have to put in all these commercials. The more successful Cairo became, because when Ron and I got to Cairo, I was really struggling because the format didn't work. It was all men. It was older men. And they were always taking people's phone calls, and it was the same people every day, the same arguments, people yelling at each other, local politics. It was just a real grind when you tune into it. And we're like, hey, this needs to be fun. It needs to be a big tent where everyone can share their views. And if they think differently, we appreciate that, and that's okay. We want to have community involvement. We want to have strong opinions, and we want to get women involved. Because what do people like to listen to on the radio? They like to listen to women too, not just men. And I remember when we got there, I was called in the program director. They're like, no, our news anchors, they're not to give their opinions. They talk at the top and the bottom, and it's the hosts. Well, all the hosts were men. All the women were sequestered from giving their opinions because most of them were giving the updates. Or maybe they were reporters, and I'm like, this is... So I don't think Brandy Cruz, for instance, on Dory's show, would have ever been able to talk on that show if it wasn't for what Ron and I did when we came there. I remember getting called to Carl Garner's office, and he wanted to fire Rachel Bell. He's like, I don't get Rachel Bell. I said, we do, and the fact that you're a 60-some-year-old man, you're not our demographic. We get her. People love her. I said, just wait till the ratings came out. And every time And then he's like, I don't get why you're repeating it 2 hours later. I said, just watch. And then he saw the ratings. Anytime we did Ring My Bell, it became the most listened to segment on the show. And then the repeat was always in the top 3 or the top 4. So they started looking at that and they're like, wow, having Rachel talk. She's really smart. She's a great storyteller. She's super funny. She's interesting. And she's opinionated and she does really compelling stories that ring her bell, that may ring nobody else's bell. And it's not hard news. It's not a dumpster that's on fire.
But it created an interest for all of us in what interested her. And that was part of the magic.
And all of a sudden, Colleen O'Brien got to start talking on the morning show. And Linda Thomas got to start talking. We started hearing Ursula, who now gives lots of her opinions on Cairo Radio, right? And she's great at it, which is Scott over there. So it really, and I'm proud of them. Even when you listen to ESPN now, I think the best anchor that they have on ESPN is a female that they have in midday. She is absolutely incredible. She's so good. So I give them credit for putting women on it, but I give ourselves credit for finding a home and a place. I think where Cairo has just fallen, and they're not even in the top 10 anymore, is they went out, they rehired a bunch of men, so it's all men that are the main hosts now, really except for Ursula. And then it is it's a lot of producers that aren't really radio hosts and weren't trained to be, that are cheap, and they've kind of put them in radio host roles. And I know a lot of the main hosts are having to work other jobs now.
It's boring as hell, Don.
Yeah,
I mean,
you just don't get paid that much anymore.
I don't care who it is. I won't name names, but what do? They go in an hour before, they read the news. Oh, we're going to talk about this. They have no knowledge of it.
Yeah.
It's superficial. They're insincere. It's
kind of lifestyle talkish. It's kind of
reacting to the news. I'm going to criticize I'm going to find the negative crap, and anyway. But what I was saying that is lost. One of the things I loved about radio, the art form, the craft, and I don't care if you go back to Edward R. Murrow. When I went to grad, I have a master's in journalism, blah 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 blah. It was actually about writing and crafting this piece of, I'm going to call it art to an extent. Dave Ross was an amazing craftsman. Incredible. Every word was thought through, the way it flows, just like literature or a script or something. Production. I used to spend hours crafting. How does this soundbite go in? And now it's the lowest common denominator, the lowest bar. I watched you guys every day. You would come in with your big old whiteboard. Now, granted, you guys were special and you were in the basement, and nobody could talk to you, nobody could bother you, and people were so resentful. I was like, because they're doing their thing. Leave them the hell alone. They don't need to be in our cesspool.
We're cooking.
But you were crafting, and the thought of going back to, ultimately, there's always a point with me. It just takes a long time to get there, and that is that after you only have 8 minutes to. Any good story has a beginning, a middle, or an end. This goes back to the caveman days, right?
Yeah.
There is a story. You had to do that in 8 minutes. Your whole show was a show. It had to flow while also then being interrupted repeatedly. So that is what made radio in the golden era, which I'm going to argue was basically, from the 20s, Orson Welles came out of radio. It was a craft, and that craft, I'm going to suggest why is NPR, you sent me the ratings the other day, why is KUOW, because they still at least practice to an extent the craft of radio.
Yeah.
That craft in commercial radio is dead.
All right. 10 questions about radio.
Okay.
We have to answer these 10 questions, and we'll do it in 10 minutes. You'll give 30 seconds. I'll give 30 seconds. Are you ready? And I wrote these down for us.
Okay, we're going to do
people find it
round.
interesting. Number one, why are you no longer at Cairo? We're no longer at Cairo because they didn't renew our contract. Why are you no longer at Cairo?
Because I had a big disagreement with management.
Yeah.
They felt I was doing things that they didn't like. Plus, I sort of did my own thing. You know what? I learned the lesson. I get 5 seconds left. I was kind of a self-entitled a-hole. Yeah. And because I did my thing, they didn't like it. I wasn't a conformist, and I was bored.
Yeah, you're bored. Question number 2. And these are some of the most questions I get at open house, so I wrote it down for us. Did you ever talk to the man that fired you? People ask me, weren't you guys friends? Yeah, Dave Pridemore, we climbed Mount Rainier together.
Yes,
we left
I
our
remember.
Friend, Brad, who worked at the station, we left his ashes at the top. I have called him numerous times. He got fired over firing us. He is currently, he sells, I think, a jazz station somewhere. I always told him, I said, Dave, stay in the sales room, because the moment you become a manager of talent and the ratings go bad, they will blow you out, because they blew everyone out every 18 months or so. And that's what happened. 18 months down the road, he got blown out.
5, 4.
Yeah, but I did call him, and we're in a good place together. What about you?
No.
Yeah.
And I will say that the guy who fired me, who was the program director at the time, was very generous with me at times when I did things that were against company policy, but he at least had an open mind until he didn't and started reading my emails and misinterpreted what was going on. And he created a narrative, because I think at the end of the day, they were just tired of me being a pain in the ass.
Yeah. How'd you feel about Dory's death? Dory's our midday person, and he also did Seahawks pregame for quite some time.
I thought it was sad. I saw Dory. I was playing golf at Sandpoint Country Club. I'm not a member, by the way. I was invited. And he didn't look well, and I was worried about it. But, Dory was so kind and generous for everybody. The whole spiel of him going far right. When I was coaching my daughter's basketball team in 5th grade, Dory taught me how to be a coach. I went to his high school games. He showed me playbooks. Dory, as a human being, was a wonderful human being, and he was the smartest guy I've ever known.
Yeah, I was incredibly sad. I also knew that he was not sleeping at night. I think when he lost, because of some of the things he said on air, they wouldn't let him coach anymore, and they also, the Seahawks kicked him off the broadcast. He stopped sleeping, and I think when you stop sleeping, especially for people our age, you're going to have some real trouble.
Yeah.
So I wasn't surprised that happened, but deeply saddened. He and I were very good friends, and we probably talked on the phone every other week.
He was a loyal family man. He was great and he was very generous.
Yeah. All right, number 5. Question number 5. What do you miss the most about working at Kyle Radio? What do you miss?
Access.
Yeah.
I don't want to go sit in the stands with you in the rain at a Seahawks game. They have much better food in the press box.
Yeah. I miss just the break room, and I also miss that you could put anything on the table,
and people would eat it.
And they would eat it. Ron and I sometimes would have food left over 4 or 5 days, and we would put it out there. Just say, I wonder if Frank Shires will eat this.
I can't believe you're naming him.
Yeah, what? Oh, there were a bunch of them.
Yeah, I know, but I can't believe you singled one person.
Tim was good. Tim would be like, he knew if it was 1 or 2 days old.
Tim Hake?
Yeah, he'd still go in there. But Frank, if it was 4 or 5, he'd still take it down. As Robert De Niro said in Meet the Fockers, he'd take it down to Chinatown. All right, number 6. Let's see. If you could program Cairo today, what would be one thing that you would do that you think would help the station?
Diversify the people.
Yeah.
To represent, going back to Mayor Katie Wilson, more voices that speak actually to a broader. You had a big tent. Right now, they are trying to micro-program to a tiny group of angry men.
Yeah. Let's see. If I was a Cairo programmer, I would bring back women. I'd bring back Libby, Kim Shepard, Brandy Cruz, Colleen, Rachel, Tina, and Jillian. I think all of them are radio superstars. Number 7. Did you make more money in radio or outside of radio? And for me, it would be real estate. I will say I make a lot more money in real estate. My best year in radio, I probably made $500,000, and that was with doing a shiznit load of commercials. I don't think anyone at that radio station is making $500,000. I will say the jobs that people used to have, like when the T-Man worked at Cube, he was making millions of dollars every year at the morning as the morning guy. Ron and I missed that under consolidation. So we certainly made more money than the guys are making today, but it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. It wasn't millions and millions of dollars. Real estate has been a game changer for me, and also it allows me to kind of buy my time back and raise my kids. So I am very, very grateful for the firing of at Cairo Radio, or the non-renewal of my contract. What about you?
No. You know what? I don't think I made $500,000 in a decade.
Yeah.
For the right, they didn't pay crap. And I remember, you named a program director who said to me one day when I went in, hadn't had a raise, I just won some Murrows, and you're lucky you have a job. Plenty of other people want your job.
Yeah, nice.
There's your raise. So the answer is outside of.
Yeah.
Radio.
Are we on 8 or 9 right now, Matt? Do you know? I think
That was 6.
No. No. So I think we're at number 8.
Okay. I'll be quick.
Yeah. Do you miss it? Do you
Sure.
miss it all?
I miss parts of it. I miss getting out into the community, meeting so many different people from so many other walks of life and sharing their stories. So I do miss that. And again, I miss having the access to the locker room and the press box.
All right, let's make this 8, 9, and 10. This is the final one. What if they asked you back? I've been asked back, and I was asked back without Ron, and they wanted to team me with a woman. I've been asked back into radio all over the country, sometimes with Ron, mostly without him, though. Mostly wanting to team me with a woman, particularly in Chicago and Boston. I would never go back.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, and
absolutely
I would never
not.
go back. It's one of the reasons why when I got blown out of Katrina, people are like, "Hey, I didn't know you invested this money in real estate." Like I learned my lesson when I lost everything after Katrina, and I became a very frugal investor. And as a result of that, today losing that job, it used to be, boy, you lose your job in radio. It's like, well, I don't want to move to Dallas from Phoenix, but I have to. Or I don't want to move from San Francisco to Phoenix to Dallas, back to Seattle, over to Grand Rapids, down to New Orleans, back to. I don't want to do that, but you had to. I don't have to do that anymore. I bought my time back. I get to raise my kid, and I'm grateful for all of it. I'm a
100%. It's shaped.
Amor Fati, right? I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all of it.
My whole life, but the only thing I will say is the television that I went into, the radio I went into, the business I went into does not exist anymore.
All right, and then also I have to apologize to you because you came in one day. And I didn't know if you were high or not. We felt like you were because you're like, yeah, Emilio Esteve, Rob Lowe, Charlie Sheen. They were my best friends growing up. We're like, that's a bunch of bullshit, isn't it? And then next thing you know, I think it was the early days of Facebook. We looked on Facebook, and there you were out playing golf with all your boyhood friends. There you are with Charlie and Emilio and Rob. And you guys all grew up in the same neighborhood, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Malibu, California. And it just so happened that in our community, there were a lot of them. What's interesting, though, is, Martin Sheen was the only actual successful actor, but Charlie and Emilio lived down the street. Rob Lowe became a good friend of mine when he moved from Dayton, Ohio in 7th grade.
Is that right?
We became good friends, and everybody picked on him and beat up on him because they said he was gay and that he had the long hair and he was girly and all of that. And so as a result, I mean, it's like when you say, oh, everybody in my community works at Microsoft. Where I grew up was the film and TV business. So, yeah, I happen to be fortunate to have a lot of friends that were very successful.
What did you think of kind of the Charlie Sheen docuseries that just came out? Have you been able to watch that docuseries?
Oh yeah.
What'd you think of it?
I'm amazed that he's alive. I am grateful that he is alive. I know a lot of the people that were in that, especially Tony, his best friend, who was there the whole time. And it is not easy coming. This is going to sound. It is not easy being a young person thrown into incredible wealth, privilege, drugs, sex, depravity, and let me tell you, growing up in Hollywood in the 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, we're talking, bacchanalian, the worst. So I am thrilled that Charlie is okay.
Yeah.
Because we didn't think he'd make it for decades.
Yeah.
So
I just love how honest he is, and I root for him. And you can tell he wants to come back and do 2.5 Men Part 2. Because
he was getting $1 million an episode.
I think he admitted that. He's really had to downshift. He had to move out of that house, and he's not making the money he once was. And I think he pounded through a lot of that money, right?
Yeah. The amazing what I will tell you is I knew. I'm going to name drop just a little bit because people.
That's why I'm doing this. It's fun. It's fun when you name drop.
So where I grew up, I was Tatum O'Neill, Griffin O'Neill, who was Ryan O'Neill's children. I mean, he'd leave them for a month at a time with a bunch of money and Porsche. On and on and on. If you're not a well-grounded, healthy, mentally well person.
Yeah.
You're look at Charlie is a perfect example. I mean, for all intent, he was broken. And I saw so many people who didn't make it back because they didn't have the resources. So, it is not having all the money in the world. Is not a solution. I've seen people have everything and lose everything. Yeah.
The reason I bring it up, and it'll get us into our final segment here on the other side of this, I love how Rob Lowe talks about his recovery, right? And I know that. You and I have talked a lot about recovery as well. When you're so brave, and he's been in recovery for a long time,
probably 30 years now or something like that.
Like his story really helped my story. So let's talk about that on the other side.
Thanks for being a part of the Ron and Don Nation. Subscribe to the Nation News at ronanddonsitdown.com. A behind-the-scenes look at everything Ron and Don.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Ron and Don Show. If you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, Josh and I are now standing like we're at a bar because, boy, we spent a lot of time at the bar.
Dude, my ass hurt.
Yeah.
Your discount studio. I'm gonna, when you get a raise, I want better chairs.
These are the stools that spin around that are red that were in your grandma and grandpa's basement.
And Naga hide.
Yeah, so my friend Mike, who's my electrician, his father passed away. I think he's 106.
Wow.
He had a dance floor downstairs with these stools.
Oh, my God.
And I took one of these real estate signs, and I put no parking on the dance floor, and I taped it to when we were selling it. And we had these stools down there. We had disco going and all that. It was a fun house to sell. So anyway, he gave me the stools afterwards. He said, you can have dad's stools. So these are Mike's dad's stools. Want to talk a little bit about, we were talking about Rob Lowe. I want to talk a little bit about recovery. It was interesting. Sure. I told my son today that I was having you on. And he was very curious, and he said, because I've told him before about the conversation that we had that was really life-changing for me. And for people that don't know, when my son was very, very young, I didn't feel like I was a very prepared father, because I wasn't. And I could immediately see there were not tools in my tackle box or in my work box or whatever you want to call that. And I didn't understand why. Like I looked at other dads, and I could see what great fathers they were, and I wanted to be one. But I could just tell in areas of my life that it was going to be very, very difficult for me. So sometimes when you're raising a child, I'm raising out of wedlock. You have family members that jump in. Maybe your mom's around, maybe your brother's around, your uncles. I didn't have that. And so we developed, I call them the unks or the uncles. Ron is one of them. Scotty's one of them. Carter's one of them. Joe's one of them. Mr. Mike 1, Mr. Mike 2. They're kind of uncles. Miss Jennifer, they've really become family. And I look at those men, and some of them not having kids, some of them do have kids. I could see that I was lacking. And what really did it for me is in radio, you feel a lot of pressure. We've been talking a lot about pressure, and the pressure's real. When I left Cairo Radio, or when I was asked to leave Cairo Radio, I still had a year and a half of vacation that I never took. Wow. If people tuned in for Operation Airlift Japan, Ron went to Japan. I did not. They did not want me to go to Japan because they said when you leave, the ratings go down because I'm the anchor of the show. I'm sitting in chair one. When Ron would leave, and I would have John Curley on, for instance, sometimes the ratings would either stay the same or sometimes they would go up. They didn't go down. And so it was very, very important. If I ever thought about, I never took a 2-week vacation, ever.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I would take like a 1-week vacation around Christmas every year.
Yeah.
And usually when you get fired in radio, it's around Christmas. And I always, and that's when I ended up getting fired. I was back at Christmas. My mom's husband was dying. They didn't have hospice. Gunnar and I stayed there. He's a real young boy then. That's when he was supposed to get Charlie for Christmas from Santa Claus. And they said, it's important you come back. You need to come back. You need to come back. And I'm like, yeah, but my mom's, well, you need to come back. You're the anchor. So they invited us back to fire us.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
A load of shit.
That's the real. That
ain't shizzle. That's bullshit.
Yeah, they invited us back to fire us because they wanted to get that out of the way during Christmas because they wanted that to fall out of headlines, thinking that nobody was paying attention. And then we got on a plane and went back and buried Stanley. So anyway, You feel a lot of pressure in radio. You felt that pressure. Ratings and revenue are everything, and especially when you sit in chair one. There's a lot of pressure in that chair. And I know Dory, I know Dave, I know probably John, who sits in that chair now. You always feel that pressure. So Friday nights, a lot of times is when we'd see our ratings every quarter or so when they would come out. And boy, when they weren't good, I would I put my son down. He was very, very young then. He'd go to bed at 7 o'clock, and I'd start drinking, and a glass of wine turned into 2, and 2 turned into a bottle, and a bottle turned into a bottle and a half. And I just knew from growing up, and my father's an alcoholic, left when I was young. I just knew I was in trouble. I knew that I was in trouble. So I reached out to Ron and Rachel. Ron and Rachel had, they went to see a woman by the name of Priscilla. Priscilla was the first psychologist that was assigned to the Seattle Seahawks. And she dealt with a lot of people that are famous. And I'm not saying I'm famous, but I I was famous to Seattle at the time. If you look at our Q rating is when you walk into a store, how many people would know you, and more people knew us than most of the TV people here. So our show was very popular at that time. And so Ron said and Rachel said, maybe you should go talk to Priscilla. She's a cognitive therapist, and maybe she can help you with some of those tools. So I went to see Priscilla. And long story short, I saw her for 6 years. Initially, I saw her I was so determined to get help. I saw her 3 days a week when I first, and I would write everything out. And I said, I don't want to live in the past with my dad. What can we do? Because I don't want to just sit here and talk about him. I really want tools. I don't want to rehash the house. She goes, good, because I don't do that. She said, write everything out. So I wrote my story out. I gave that to her. What was really cool is sometimes we were 2 to 3 years into therapy. She would bring something up that I had never talked about. That was from the story that I had written, Josh,
Wow.
and it was so helpful. And in time, 3 days turned into two turned into one turned into once every other week. Then it turned into once a month. Then it turned into once a quarter. Then it turned into once every half year. And then she called me in one day and she said, "Hey, I just want to congratulate you." She goes, "My job is to make sure that you have the tools and that you graduate and that you don't need me." Yeah, that you don't need me for the rest of your life, and yeah, so I graduated with those tools. Along the way, in chatting with her thoughts were, I don't think you're a typical alcoholic in the sense that you're addicted to the drug of alcohol. Mm-hmm. She said, but you have used that as medicine to numb your pain.
Sure.
You have used that as medicine to numb your pain. And she said the danger sometimes when people get suicidal is they will stop taking alcohol or using their drug of choice or their numbing agent, and then all of a sudden, and I'll just say it, the shit gets real because now you really have to deal with yourself and you don't have the numbing agent.
100%.
And she said that's when it gets hard. And it was probably a year and a half into my therapy sessions with her where I was like, whoa, I need to take some time out of my life here and just completely stop drinking, which I did for the rest of the time of doing therapy with her. And it wasn't anything that she ever told me I needed to do. It just revealed itself. And I would sit in a chair every morning. I call it chair one. There's 4 chairs at our house. And I would journal and journal and journal. I'd light a candle. I'd say my prayers. And I would write these journals. And the journals are still there. They're all above my refrigerator at my house. My son still sits in that chair every morning. And I get up every morning and I make him breakfast. Sometimes if he's going to weights, it's 5 a.m. And I finally told him the other day the significance of the chair that he sits in. And I never asked him to sit in that chair. He just sits in that chair. And I sit on the other side of the kitchen island and we talk, and sometimes we listen to music and sometimes we listen to podcasts. But he's also become very interested in this part of my life. And in fact, we were talking about it at breakfast this morning, and we were talking about the power of recovery and the power of the 12 steps. Somewhere in those 6 years, and because for brevity, I came to you because I knew that you understood the power of recovery and the power of 12 steps. I had gone to 7 AA meetings, and if people remember, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I became a trail runner. It's because when I went to the AA meetings, I was horrified, and I didn't connect with it. And I can't say I didn't connect with the people there, because I did, especially for the older people. You see the gentleness and the kindness of their eyes, and then you see the hardness of the life that they lived on their faces. And I knew that was going to be in my life if I didn't get things. So I was in Fremont one morning, 6 a.m. at an AA meeting. I got out. It was pouring rain. It was still dark out. And I grabbed my tennis shoes, and I went out to Discovery Park for the first time. And I just started running. And I've been running ever since. And not away from something, but to something. Because I always told myself, in the way that my father ran for my family, that I would find a way to run to my family and to my son. But in doing so, facing some of that numbing was very, very difficult. What was really helpful, though, is I came to you and I said, hey, I'd like to walk through the 12 steps. And so we went up into my room a number of times and we walked through the 12 steps together. I would tell anyone, and I listen to Rich Roll a lot, who is an ultramarathon runner, has an incredible podcast if you have a chance to listen to him. And he talks about recovery as well. And he said, you know what? We are all on the spectrum of addiction. We're all on the spectrum of needing to recover from something. It could be sex addiction. It could be phone addiction. It could be alcohol addiction. It could be pot addiction. It shows itself in all different forms, whatever we use to numb ourselves. And the thing that was so helpful, and I was doing it down in the truck today when I was waiting for my son to come down, and I jumped in the truck, and he said, hey, what's going on? And I said, I'm just, what the 12 steps teach you is they teach you to kind of self-evaluate every single day and to make sure if you've stepped over the line somewhere that you apologize either to yourself or to others. You take self-inventory every single day.
Yep.
And that was the most powerful thing that I learned, because when I do screw up, which I still do, sometimes the person that I'm the hardest on is myself.
Sure.
And that could drive me back to a dark place of going, I cannot forgive myself. I need to go numb. And it's not so much when other people have harmed me or stepped over the line. It's when I can't forgive myself about something.
Right.
And sometimes it's about parenting. And so I've noticed now, I don't yell or get upset with my son too much, but he was vacuuming the car the other day and I snapped at him. And within 2 minutes, because of walking through those 12 steps with you, it's like, apologize to him, lower your voice. He's going to tell you it's okay. You let him know that it's not okay. It's not okay to talk to him in that way. And then forgive yourself and move on. So I wanted to thank you for that gift of walking through the 12 steps together, because I use those steps every day. And the final 3 steps really are about each and every day evaluating your life and taking inventory, right?
Could you roadmap for living? That's what. All I have to say that I am not a representative of Alcoholics Anonymous or AA.
Yeah, me either.
I shared my experience, strength, and hope with you. That was freely given to me. I just merely helped share it to you at a time, and people did that for me. So all I will say is it is a roadmap for living. I had a need to numb my pain from the time I was a child. I knew by the time I was 16 years old I was not like other people. I was in such pain. My biological father died when I was very young. Multiple divorces, the weird, all of that, and none of these are excuses. But I found self-medication. And I functioned for decades. And on that, and what I found was, yes, the steps. The big book of this program, for me, gave me a roadmap for living all of that community and the people. I didn't do jack. I was given that. I followed directions. And as a result, it relieved me first and foremost of that desire to get up every morning and have to get high, have to have a drink. If I have one drink, one is too many because 1,000 is never enough. So it gave me that. But then God, through the grace of whatever you want to call it, I was relieved of what they call the obsession and compulsion to drink and use. But I was still me and left with me. And through that process, and then a journey of many other things, was that at least I have a foundation to go back to that is not, it is not the Bible. It is not the Quran. It is not whatever. This was a set of tools. It is a secular program. It is not religious. There's a lot of talk of God, but just I look at that as a word. And as a result, it has given me something that I can always go back to try, at least have a baseline to then go and get the help I need. And there's the other one. I ain't going to figure this shit out myself. I struggle every day with being a human being. Last one, progress, not perfection. We try, we fail, we get up, we do it again. And I'm going to say, I'm hoping we're done because we've been here like 8 hours. And you model, and I don't need to kiss your ass, but you from day one when you had that child, when he came into your life, because I happened to be around you, you have busted your ass. You have showed up every single day, done the best you can with the tools you have, selflessness, sacrifice, trying to not only just show up, but to make him the best to give him the tools to be the best person he can. So I just merely will say that you have been an inspiration to me as a parent for the way that you have shown up for that guy every day. And I've watched it on Facebook when I'm not around you or whatever. It's a pretty freaking amazing kid you have raised, and that kid's going to be okay. The greatest gift we as parents, my daughter's 25, I know that if I disappear right now, that kid's going to be fine.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Have you talked to her? Like he was really interested at breakfast this morning, knowing that you were coming on, talking about 12 steps recovery.
Sure.
Like, and he really was interested. And sometimes you wonder if your child's old enough. And when he was getting out of the car, he said, "Dad, I really, really appreciate you sharing that with me because I always wondered." And you never know what a kid's thinking. And I told him, I said, "Hey, you can always talk to me about it." And I said, "If you ever have any of these struggles, come to me, talk to me. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to shoo you away." Did you talk to have you had conversations with your daughter about that?
Yeah. My wife and I used to say our division of labor was she did sex, I did drugs. And we shared rock and roll. But no. That's awesome. If I were to offer one parenting thing, it is your children know a lot more at a very young age. They have feelings that they do not know how to deal with. We as adults do too. If you pretend that it doesn't exist, or you tell them buck up, or you don't know how to deal with it, like childhood trauma lasts a lifetime if you don't do that. So absolutely. And it doesn't have to be about drugs. It has to be about it. We all feel like shit, inadequate. We live in a world where all we see is a stylized bullshit version of the world, that everybody else is rich, famous, beautiful, because now we have AI. Absolutely, you better be talking to your kids early enough. We have a couple. This is a great story. Oh, we were talking as parents and all the struggles the kids had and all of that. Oh, my kid would never do that. You want to know the truth? That kid was selling the dope to all the other kids. Yeah. Engage as a parent like you do every day. You model that, Don. You are an amazing dude.
Thanks, man. And you read that just as Matt wrote that. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. It's very, very kind of you. So.
I know how to hit a post. Traffic on the 10s now. Let's go to Sky One.
Hey, before we get out of here, if people are, and we're going to talk about having a pickleball event.
Yes, we're going to do
everyone
one.
in the Ron and Don Nation.
Fundraiser
if someone's
for the field.
listening and they're like, "Hey, I feel kind of isolated. I appreciate, and I don't. Recovery is not the thing for me, but I do feel isolated, and sometimes isolation is what drives you
100%
to that, and that's what certainly drove me on a Friday night, is just feeling isolated, alone, scared, out of my mind. Pickleball is a great place, as you said,
100%
to show up. And how can somebody come play pickleball with you? Because I know
and put this in the show notes too, Matt, off mic. Josh at IAPPF.org. That's short for the International Association of Pickleball and Paddle Facilities. I would gladly, literally, anybody who reaches out to me, I will take you down. I will show you. I will coach you. I will introduce you to people.
I know you will, yeah.
And at no cost. Literally, if you're curious and you're embarrassed to say, I don't know, and I don't want to go to the park, reach out to me. I have so many communities that I'm connected to. There is a place for you. All you got, come and try. You may hate it. Great, but come and try.
I heard, we'll end with this. I heard Eric Church, who's a country western singer, and he went to Carolina. He's a Tar Heel. And he took out his guitar. And if you have a chance to listen to it online, he's given a commencement speech to those graduating. And he takes out his guitar and he plucks each string. And initially the strings are out of tune. And he's comparing the strings to our lives. And then he talks about the strings on the guitar and what it means. And then at the end of this, he talks about the power of community. And he said, I want to let you know that you will travel the world and that there are Tar Heels everywhere and you're in this incredible community. And he also encouraged people, and he said this, hey, as an artist, sometimes we always feel like we have to capture these moments and everything's for Instagram, and everything's for Facebook, and everything's out online. And just get out there and build a community. And a real community, it doesn't have to be on Instagram, and it doesn't have to be on Facebook. And that's the cool thing about pickleball is, I see it up at Ingram High School. Everybody is welcome. And you will literally see a 70-year-old woman out there playing with a 24-year-old kid.
Absolutely.
And you'll see this community and this connection. And you don't always see that on Instagram and Facebook in the age of AI. And
you don't see it in very few places. You don't
Yeah.
see that in many places around the country.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about it. Josh, thanks for being here today. Josh Kearns, everybody. If you want to get in touch with him.
A big thank you to everybody, by the way, all those over the years.
Yeah. We'll put that in the show notes. All right. Hey, don't forget as we get out of here today, if you're thinking about a mortgage, we want to thank Team Lisa from the Team Lisa Studios. That's Team Lisa.
With a Y!
TeamLisa.com. She's our mortgage go-to gal around here, and they answer the phone. They'll take care of you, whether you're buying, selling, investing, refining. Team Lisa with a Y. Also, if you need to sit down with us, RonAndDonSitDown.com. That's RonAndDonSitDown.com. And real estate right now is choppy, but I have to say everything that Ron and I have put up for sale. In fact, we put up for sale something in Snohomish. And we started getting offers on day 2. We sold yesterday on day 3. 3 offers came in before the offer review day. It was for $100,000 over, but our house was super dialed in. As long as it's dialed in and it's turnkey, people are buying up real estate right now. But you can't just take a piece of shiznit and throw it out there like you could during COVID.
Can I say one thing about that,
expect
though?
17 people to show up and buy your real estate. Sure.
I have bought and sold number of houses I have never seen. And again, nobody's paying me to say this. I did get a free drink. I've never seen.
You got a free what?
I got a free LaCroix.
You did, yeah.
And you offered a second one, but I had my.
And I'm going to get you a Lincoln Links T-shirt if you promise to wear it.
Side-out hats for you guys.
Okay.
I have never seen realtors work so hard. I've seen you shoveling literal shit and building houses.
Well, we're just going to keep all this in, Matt.
And doing all that. So anyway, no, I'm going to just tell people, and this is, again, this is totally unsolicited because I got to know these guys when they made the transition, and I thought these clowns don't know a thing about real estate.
Thanks, man.
You busted your ass. You continue to bust your ass when we sell our house. I've told you this for a number of years. Yeah. Unfortunately, our interest rate is locked in, so we're not selling anytime soon.
Yeah.
Call these guys.
And I've told you I'll charge you double.
Exactly. We need an ADU, though. We want to talk to you about that.
Okay. Attached or detached?
Oh, detached. Everything I do is detached.
Okay. You need a place to sleep when your wife kicks you out of the house and finally realizes. Yeah. Hey, want to thank 7-year-old and my 7-year-old version of my son for being our station voice, Charlie the dog, our mascot. Want to thank Matt on the mic, off the camera, on the camera for producing today's show. He really does an incredible job. I want to thank Ron, who's in Vegas, gambling his life away. And also want to thank this guy over here, Josh Kearns. If you do want to go play pickleball, you're looking for a community, go hang out with him because the love connection you feel from him, you'll always feel. And if you have any questions about covering and walking, you don't have to go to AA, and it doesn't mean that you have to be addicted to alcohol or some drug. We all should stop down in our lives, and this is what I told my son this morning. Every once in a while, we should stop down, and I said, you know the way that we always pat our pockets when we're leaving the house or leaving the store? He goes, yeah, we do inventory. That's what we do. Do I have my phone? Do I have my keys? How's Charlie? We always do inventory. I said, that's all you're doing when you're doing the 12 steps is you're just doing inventory every day. Not just on the pockets.
That's maybe a little simplified.
What's that?
That's maybe a bit simplified.
He's 16 years old.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Jeez. I was trying to wind this thing down.
With me?
Yeah.
Good luck.
This is the longest podcast we've ever done.
Now you know how Ron feels.
Hey, till next time, keep your head up and your shoulders back. And don't forget that you've been listening to the Ron and Don Show online on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to the Ron and Don Show. Please hit subscribe.